Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We are so thrilled to have you with us. We will just take a hot minute as folks enter our webinar this morning. I see people are already saying good morning in the chat. We're excited to have so many chipper faces with us today. Right. Okay. We see more people coming in. We'll give folks a moment to continue to enter. We're thrilled to have you with us here on this Thursday morning. Promise this will be a great way to start your day. See a lot of Wyman team members who've come in. I see some partners coming in. I see a shout out to our friends at the Children's Services Fund of St. Louis County who are with us today. Oh, I spy some Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis people coming in. Literally have people from across the country and even a couple of folks internationally who are joining us today. We'll continue to let people enter and then we'll get kicked off in a moment. All right. Well, let's go ahead and kick it off. I know we'll have more people joining us as we move through. Good morning, everyone. I'm Allison Williams, the CEO of Wyman, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's connected conversation with our amazing guest and dear friend of mine, Stephanie Malia Kraus. A reminder that the event is being recorded today. We're so excited to have registrants from across the country. As I said, literally, we have people from the East Coast all the way to Hawaii, which is where Stephanie is dialing in from. We have a couple of folks internationally who are joining us today, and we're just thrilled to have you. So please continue to let us know that you are here by dropping your name and your organization in the chat. As we go through today, please feel free to drop questions in the chat. These will be reviewed throughout the conversation, and everyone who registered today will receive a follow-up email after the event that will include the recording if you wish to share it with anyone else and all of the resources that we mentioned today. So please, for now, allow yourself to be here, to be curious, to be hopeful, and simply to be present. We're really glad you are with us. I want to start with a quick introduction to Wyman. So Wyman's mission, as many of you know, is to connect teens to their voices, their strengths, and their futures through proven programs and supports. And we've been doing this for over 128 years now. We provide three proven programs: Wyman Leaders, Teen Outreach Program, and Teen Connection Project. Wyman was founded in St. Louis, Missouri, and we serve approximately 1,200 young people a year here in St. Louis through our own direct delivery. And we have a network of nearly 70 partners across the country and in St. Louis that serve another 25,000 young people through our Teen Outreach Program and Teen Connection Project. Many of those partners are joining us today, and we are so grateful you are on this journey with us. Let me chat just for a moment about our framework for thriving youth, which really sets us up for today's conversation. This is how Wyman does its work. In the center, you see the three goals that we aspire for young people: educational career success, life and leadership skills, healthy behaviors and relationships. Why those goals? Because research, our lived experience, what young people and partners inform us, we know that when young people have those, when they reach those pieces, those young people are more likely to be set up for success and be able to have the fulfilling nows and the fulfilling futures that they wish for themselves. All around that, you can see how we get to those goals with young people. You see in the background those caring and responsive and knowledgeable adults, those connections, you're going to hear the word connections a lot today. Those connections, those relationships. You can have the best curriculum in the world, but without those connections and relationships, it falls flat. Those are absolutely foundational to how we do our work. And we take teens intentionally through experiential and empowering and engaging programs that help them build their skills, develop a positive sense of self, and make connections to others in their world. All of that is done in the context of their community. So that's really Wyman and how we approach our work. All three of our programs have an external research base, and two of them, the Teen Outreach Program and Teen Connection Project, are on multiple best practice lists across the country. So in that framework for thriving youth, you heard me talk about relationships and connections. We truly believe, and if you follow us on social media, if you see some of what we have put out there, that connection is truly our human superpower. It's not Wyman's superpower. We use it. It is our superpower as human beings. So we are glad to have you with us today for this connected conversation. We bring these connected conversations together 2 or 3 times a year to bring a community together intentionally in support of teens. We lift up critical questions, we lift up important research, we lift up spaces for awareness. So today we gather as youth practitioners, funders, policymakers, board members, parents, caregivers, aunties, uncles, organizational leaders, all with one commonality, our commitment to the well-being of young people. We hope that each connected conversation reinforces your commitment to young people and leaves you with both actionable resources or next steps and creates meaningful connections for you as well. So with that background, let's set the table then for today's conversation. We think a lot at Wyman about factors that are very unique to the current generation of young people when we think about current first graders through 12th graders. As I think about this, and as I came into this role as CEO about 3 years ago, I reflected on this a lot because so many things felt like they were changing. They were emerging for young people. And there's really 4 pieces that struck me, and we talk a lot at Wyman, and these are deeply on our mind. First, you all know we've lived through a worldwide pandemic that created 2 years of interrupted typical developmental experiences for young people. And by the way, for the adults who care for them as well. We know that there's been a teen mental health crisis that data now shows was taking hold 10 years prior to the pandemic and was only amplified in that space. When we think about levels of anxiety, levels of depression, pieces that were really coming through for teens. We know that this entire generation has had and will continue to have a relationship with technology, social media, and now AI in a space that is unlike any before them. And finally, as we all well know and feel, there is a depth of uncertainty and a pace of change in this world, in our local communities, our state, our nation, across the world, that is often palpable. Every generation has its own unique circumstances, and this is what is currently a reality for the young people that we are working with and that we are caring for. So from Wyman's perspective, as policymakers, practitioners, organizational leaders, parents, caregivers, funders, what does this mean for us? It means that we are called to understand these realities and consider how we grow and adapt in our support of young people and engage them along the way in this process. Young people are not broken. Times are changing. So it is our responsibility to keep up with that. So with all of this on my mind, I received a call from my friend Stephanie about 2 years ago. And I remember this vividly because I was packing my bag to get ready to head to Washington, D.C. with another Wyman colleague to do some advocacy visits when Stephanie called. So she starts telling me what's on her mind for young people and the learning and writing journey that she had ahead. And her question was 2 questions. What do you think? And will Wyman join me in this? And of course, my answer was a very quick and resounding yes. Tell me more. And I'm so glad that we've been on this learning journey with Stephanie and grateful for all that she will bring to our conversation today. So let me do a quick introduction. And I've taken a few liberties, Stephanie, with your bio to personalize it just a bit. So, my dear friend, Stephanie Malia Kraus is a longtime champion of children and adults who care for them. I've had the good fortune of knowing Stephanie and her family, actually, her wonderful husband and two amazing children, for quite some time. I've known Stephanie as a social worker, as an educator, as a youth development expert, a mom, and simply a very authentic human who brings all of her lived experience to her work and her care for young people. Her latest book, which brings us together today, How We Thrive, explores the urgent need to rehuman our lives by protecting the human essentials like sleep, play, and belonging. Working across the US and globally, Stephanie advises national, state, and local leaders on human centered ways to prepare and care for young people and themselves. Stephanie's a best selling author with previous books, additionally, Whole Child, Whole Life, and Making It. And her work has been featured on all the places that I love to nerd out: NPR, PBS NewsHour, Parents, Newsweek, and more. And we are absolutely thrilled to have her with us today. So without further ado, joining us from the Aloha State today, my friend Stephanie Malia Kraus.
Thank you so much, Allison. And, webinars can be slightly impersonal. And so we can't be human-centered without addressing it. In just a moment, I'm going to ask if you have an extra digital device, meaning if you're not on your phone, grab your phone. If you are on your phone and have a computer available, pull that up. I want to get to know you and understand where things are with the young people in your life. And so, in order to do that, we're going to get at this in a couple of ways. If you are somebody with fast thumbs who is eager to immediately do any activity, in just a second, when you see the QR code, go for it, but do not answer the question that pulls up quite yet. And if you need a little bit of time, don't worry. I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions. So on the screen, and Allison, I just want to make sure that I'm showing the right screen. There
Yes.
is a QR code. And if you have not done this before, you're just going to turn on the camera function, just like Allison is modeling for us, the camera function on your phone, take a picture of it, and it will pull up a link. If this baffles you, you can pull up the link yourself. It is right at the bottom of that graphic, menti.com, menti.com. And Tori, if you can put the access code in the chat, I just have a few questions for you. But again, in terms of not answering ahead of time, I have a quick instruction just to make this as powerful as possible. I have three questions, and you'll have the opportunity in Menti, this polling platform, to answer in a way that will generate a cloud of words, a word cloud, showing us what people are experiencing across the US and the globe and the St. Louis region, everyone represented here. But single word answers are what will make this experience most powerful. You'll be able to put in as many words as you come up with, but my strong recommendation is that you choose single word responses and then submit, and you'll submit a second time. So most importantly, to start, I want to know, when you think about the last few months, maybe the last year, how are the kids in your care? The kids that you're working with, the kids that you're raising, the kids in your community, the kids that you work on behalf of. When you think about young people, in a moment, I'm going to pull up this poll. And if you're not able to participate on Menti, feel free to think about the responses yourself or plop them in the chat. But I want to know how the kids are. So go ahead and start thumbing in those responses or typing them in while I shift my screen so we can see those answers. Now, if you are a particularly fast thumber, I want to just encourage you to take a moment to watch this word cloud develop. And Allison, I want to make sure in terms of our sharing, do we see this as a full screen? Okay,
Yes. Yep.
fantastic. So again, if you weren't able to get on to Menti, you can see that QR code on the right-hand side. You can keep trying. If you are driving or walking or not able to participate for any other reason, I'm going to narrate over in just a moment what I'm seeing. We're going to take a solid 15 seconds more. Remember, you can add as many words as you want, but the question is, how are our kids? So for those of you who are unable to see the visual, let me just tell you what I'm seeing. At the very beginning, the words anxious and stressed and busy popped onto the screen. And what that means from a word cloud polling perspective is that those were the first words that came to mind for the most people. The bigger the word, the more people had that response. We also see that they're stressed and overwhelmed, struggling and frustrated and uncertain. And pushed to the periphery, we see words like engaged and hopeful and excited. And so here I'm going to advance us to the next question. It should do it automatically on your device, or it will give you just a little prompt to be able to do it. So our next question is, how are our families? How are the families of the young people that you work with and care for? How is your own family? How are our families? The same rules apply. If you are a fast thumber, give yourself permission after you've created and submitted your responses to watch this word cloud develop. Same with if you are not able to get on Menti. And if you are listening, you can add things to the chat and I will narrate over for you in just a moment what we're seeing. I was an elementary school teacher, and so we have this concept of wait time. So I'm going to give us a good 15 to 20 seconds more where I am not talking and where you are either submitting, watching, or both. So for those of you who can't see the word cloud, I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing. And for those of you who can, go ahead and take a look with me at the screen. So the interesting thing about this question of how are our families is that overwhelmed, busy, and stressed came to the center and then stayed. So we see movement all around with all of these other words, but here just static is families being overwhelmed and stressed and busy. And then the secondary words popped up: stretched, trying, tired, struggling. At the periphery, we see the things that we hope for: connected, loving, strong. I have one more question. You are sitting on your screen. This is, as you can tell, anonymous. How are you? How are you doing? And again, same rules apply. If you are a fast thumber, if it was easiest for you to say exactly how you are, give yourself permission to see where your 60 plus other colleagues are by watching this word cloud develop. And if you're listening to this recording after the fact, just pause it and ask yourself these 3 questions. We're going to take that same meaty, real 15 to 20 seconds more for you to either finish submitting your responses, watching the word cloud, or both. So these answers are striking. If you watched as the word cloud began, if there were any folks like me who weren't submitting, tired came and filled the entire screen and just stayed there for a while, followed by worried, stressed, overwhelmed, and exhausted. And then something striking, but not entirely surprising, with those of us who care for kids came up, which is that somehow we are still hopeful. And so let's go ahead back to the presentation to kind of unpack exactly what we see across all of us, the collective. If you get dizzy, this is your moment to avert your eyes just for a second. And you can come on back. So here's the thing. We are collectively across time overwhelmed, overloaded, stressed, and tired. I started asking these three questions 6 years ago in the pandemic when I was meeting on screens like this one and I couldn't get to communities. I couldn't get to the kids and the adults who were caring for them. And I wanted to know how they were. And so I kept it simple. How are your kids? How are your families? How are you? And they were overwhelmed, overloaded, stressed, and tired. And I thought, well, obviously, all of the things Allison said at the beginning. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. We are in the middle of incredible violence and division and all of the things coming together, converging at once. But as I have asked these questions, and we have moved further and further away from the pandemic in the past few years, being overwhelmed and overloaded, stressed and tired has only gotten bigger every time, anytime. This graphic is actually from the book, How We Thrive. And I put it after the poll. I knew what your answers would be. For adults, this is defeating. But for our kids, this is a disaster. Our kids who could prospectively live a 100-year life are already constantly, chronically busy and stressed and overwhelmed. Friends, today, my teen boys started school. This is the start of a school year, and our kids are already overwhelmed, overloaded, stressed, and tired. So I'm here to tell you an important truth. This cannot possibly be a personal failing. We cannot possibly individually be doing this wrong, somehow unable to manage all of the things as life is happening. This is collective. This is the weather that we are in. What we see universally is that there are some conditions, like bad weather, converging on us all at once. We are overtapped. There is not enough time or money to meet our demands. We are just slaves to crowded calendars and unending task lists and ever growing expenses in our lives. We are overworked, chronically, constantly busy. In the United States, we work 1.5 to 2 times more than adults anywhere else. And for those of us in helping professions, we know, I know how much we work. And the problem is we put that pressure to produce and to perform and to grind and to hustle right on our kids. And we say, this is what it looks like to prepare and to be successful and to achieve. We are overstimulated. Addictive tech is preying on our human needs for connection and creativity and play. This is something that drags us down as adults, but for young people, This is preying on their developmental vulnerabilities because they go on these devices and addictive platforms for all of the right developmental reasons. They are bored. They want to connect with friends. They want to follow their celebrities. They want to create something. They want to be social. Or we, the adults, tell them. And we are overwrought. There is an existential dread that drums in the background of our lives. It leaves us afraid and worried and anxious that disruption or disaster can strike at any time. And so it's like sailing in stormy weather, unsure of what will happen. We are pushed and pulled by the winds of life, the sheer force, sometimes brutal. It can feel like constant damage control. For any young traveler, my children, the kids that we are collectively, individually caring for, these storms are real, scary, and all that they've known. This is bigger than burnout. The overwhelm and overload that adults and these kids feel every day. It is a blaring tornado siren of our lives. It is the convergence of maybe manageable, survivable conditions on their own. When I was a kid, we didn't have any money. And so I was overtapped, but I had no toxic tech. I was not overstimulated. All of these things coming together at once that you would be afraid for your life and hooked on an addictive platform and constantly grinding and so tapped out and busy. It's dangerous. And the biggest danger is actually where the biggest hope is. Just like you said, you're tired and you're hopeful. We are depleted. We are actually deprived by these weather conditions. They push and pull us away from the very things that we need to be healthy and happy humans, to learn and work and grow the ways that we are designed and made to. But while burnout might be about the job or school or something we're doing, being deprived, being depleted, well, that means that we can actually be replenished, that there's restoration that can happen, that we don't actually have to live and learn and work like this. In order for young people to thrive in a world in which normal is not natural, where storms and strong weather are pulling us away, left to their own devices, from the very things that humans have historically relied on for health and development, happiness and wholeness, we have to actually actively practice protecting and prioritizing these things. And this is crucial for the kids and their grown-ups, for us too. Rehumaning, like exercise or meditation, is an active process and practice that says, I know the strengths that I already have from birth, my primal evolutionary endowments, and I have ways to protect them, to prioritize them. In order for young people to do that, we have to create the conditions that they crave. Rehumaning is a practice for young people. It's a practice for us too. But this is a space in which we, the grown-ups, have to protect and provide. We're protecting the historic essentials that young people need to thrive. Not necessarily the young people themselves, because life is going to happen. And we provide the conditions in which they can tap into those things. Humans have been around walking and talking in this way for 300,000 years. For all of that human history, we have relied on the same core capacities, human capacities to evolve, to keep growing and going, to endure because life is hard, and to enjoy. Those capacities are difficult to access in the storms. And so our job as the adults is to reduce the risks of that weather, to equip young people to be the navigators they are, and to ensure that they can tap into body, mind, heart, and spirit. The things that humans across history, across millennia, have really relied on that unfortunately are simply restricted in today's world. This rehumaning is really the only way that young people can thrive. And I'm telling you that after 25 years of researching youth development and human thriving and working in youth development and education and social work and all the spaces that Allison said, something is just different. It is just hard to human right now. And so we're taking on all the things without the very tools that we actually should have on hand. Harder lives are harder. And even times of stability, they're still stressful and strained. So how do we repair? How do we replenish? And how do we enable young people to ready themselves for the future? Let's take a rapid tour of what these human essentials are. There are 14 of them just from the science. There happen to be 14. They're the things that we're naturally drawn to, especially little kids. We see it really big and bold in our youngest children. And then we kind of get away from it as those weather conditions come up. There are 4 essentials of the body. They are our capacities to become healthier and happier, to become better learners and workers when we eat the way we're supposed to, we get good quality sleep, we move our bodies, and we regulate to stay safe. Our young people need to understand the real health harms of ultra-processed foods, of packaged products, industrially lab-made. I hate that this is true, and I always reach for cost and convenience for those packaged products, but the research is clear. Scientists have studied this across the globe. There is not one health benefit outside of shelf stability to lab-made products, the ingredients that are hard to pronounce that you wouldn't find in a common kitchen. Our kids deserve to know the possible harm of what happens when they put particular products inside their body. They deserve and need to know that it's fresh before fake. That should be a guiding principle for what they can eat. They deserve to figure out and find ways to eat the ways that humans have eaten for millennia, for centuries, slowly and socially. But we have to create the conditions where that is possible. In the spaces where they spend time, they need the availability of fresh food, ideally free. They need schedules in which they are eating at appropriate meal times and not school days where lunch is at 10:15 in the morning for 15 minutes sitting in a straight row where you cannot talk. So as much as we need to equip them to be good eaters, we have to create the conditions in which they receive those nourishing benefits. And dear God, be better than me. Teach these kids to cook. Somehow I've ended up with 13 and 15-year-olds who do not know how to cook, and I am going to fix that. Our kids, they need sleep. God, they need sleep. They actually need 8 to 11 hours each day. We sleep for more than a third of our lives. And we need to teach kids how much sleep they need and the conditions that enable good quality sleep to happen. Those conditions include rooms or spaces for sleep that are cool and dark, that are quiet and cozy. There are all kinds of hacks that you can do in communities or in homes where resources for air conditioning or for turning the lights out are difficult. Can you imagine if we created conditions like treating sleep supports, comfy pillows, or earplugs if you need them as school supplies? If we started this school year with snug student campaigns around the country, where young people could really understand the sleep that they need. But here's the other part that we have to create. The moment kids hit adolescence, their body clock shifts and they get tired later, so they wake up later. My 13 and 15-year-olds got to be on that natural rhythm over the summer. Devices have to go away. You need quiet when you are sleeping. And so they did. They put their devices away between 9 and 10 p.m., but they still didn't fall asleep until 11:30. And they woke up 10 or 11 hours later. School started today. The boys had to wake up at 6 a.m. in order to catch a 6:45 a.m. bus. For my 15-year-old, he's going to lose, if he cannot fall asleep earlier than he has been, 4 to 5 hours of sleep every night. That is more than a day of sleep a week. And the impacts on learning and behavior, performance and productivity, mental health are profound. So let's teach kids about the sleep that they need, but let's also ensure that we are creating conditions in where that sleep is even possible. If you work with middle and high schoolers, here's a rule you have to know. Pediatricians, scientists, and scholars unanimously agree that nothing for teens should start before 8:30 in the morning. Nothing. Because when we wake them up that much earlier, we actually rob them of the dream sleep cycle, the REM sleep they need, the same sleep responsible for emotional regulation, memory, and learning. Our kids need movement. Doctors now call they call sitting the new smoking. If you sit for more than 6 hours a day, it is the health equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Our kids need to know that. They need to know not only how much movement they need, but the ways to move their body. Young people need at least an hour a day of that heart-pumping, sweat-producing exercise. So let's equip them with the skills based on their body, their abilities, who they are, what gets them to that level of exercise each day. But we have to create the conditions in which that is possible. We have to ensure that things like PE and recess during the school year are fixed and required. These kids are living in a world in which they could get on that bus at 6:45 in the morning, ride a bus to school, sit in a seat all day long outside of exceptionally short passing periods, 2 to 5 minutes, definitely no more than that. And then getting back on a bus at the end of the day and onto a device at night. So let's create those conditions in which movement and motion are just a part of the daily experience. If you are here and you run after school programs, you need to check in on how much movement kids are getting during the day. And if they are not, this becomes a much higher priority for you. And our kids are made to regulate. They have to feel safe. The thing about the science of safety is that it is binary. Our most primal, ancient part of our brain is scanning the environment constantly and just asking, am I safe or unsafe? Physically, psychologically, even at a soul level. And if it decides, the brain, the body, not necessarily like the front of our brain, that there is some signal of not being safe, we dysregulate. And some young people are dysregulated all of the time. Our young people, to thrive in a world that is so unsafe so often, they need to know the signs, the symptoms in their own body of what dysregulation feels like, and then what they can do on their own to get calm or to get safe. We don't want to override those signals and teach them to regulate in an environment that actually isn't providing the physical and psychological safety they need, which brings us to our job. It is hard, but we have to prioritize safety above everything else. And it's not just the physical structures, it's the psychological ones. Safety is connected deeply to a primary priority that Wyman has always had, which is belonging. Young people have to be able to walk into a space, and when their body surveys it, say, the whole of who I am is welcome here. The whole of who I am belongs here. The best way that we can create that condition is something called broadcasting signals of safety. We can actually use our voice, the warmth of our gestures, the conditions of the environment or space that we're in, that when these young bodies survey the scene, what broadcasts back to them is that my body and my heart are okay here. Do know that sometimes what we see as a behavior or disciplinary issue is actually a dysregulation issue. It is imperative that if you work directly with kids, if you are raising kids, you have to learn the signs and symptoms of dysregulation, which can be the angsty, anxious, angry version, or the disconnected, tired, checked out version. And so when you see something that looks like a discipline issue, just ask yourself, could this be a dysregulation issue? There are 4 essentials of the mind. They are our primal pre-verbal capacities for play, wonder, flow, and creativity. We're made to play. It is something that we share with every social species in the world. And so evolutionary biologists, they believe that play is preparatory enough that it's why we haven't gotten rid of it as we've evolved and changed over time. When they go back, sociologists and anthropologists, and look at old hunter-gatherer societies or communities in the world that still sort of operate in that way, what they find is that young people all the way through the transition into adulthood spend up to 2/3 of their time playing. And if it's hard to think about play with adolescents, the focus of Wyman's work, and I'm sure many of yours, think about being more playful. How can we introduce playfulness in what schooling looks like, in what programming looks like? How do we create the conditions for that laughter and ease and that experimentation? Scientists have found that play, perhaps more than anything, amplifies all of the rest of the essentials. When you're playing, you can also be moving your body or regulating. There's a powerful study about play and regulation, how it brings young people up to the red zone, the danger zone of regulation. Think about this like the good version of stress. When you're competing or you want to win or you're scared someone's going to get your flag. And then it brings you back into that green zone because it's just a game. That is the evolutionary science of play. It helps us prepare for risky situations. We're microdosing on risk. It also helps us heal. It helps us learn. It activates all of the parts of our brain responsible for learning. It is the work of many of you in the youth development field. And so I'll just leave you with this in terms of the conditions. Play has never been more important or more at risk than it is right now. Passive play on devices is not the same as active play in real life. As much as you can prioritize it, do. We're made for wonder. Incredibly, they have discovered that wonder is one of the most protective factors against adversity. There is a therapeutic benefit to wonder, which is our capacity for radical curiosity, for questioning things. Scientists talk about wonder as anything that produces the oohs, ahs, goosebumps, and tears. We see this in young kids. They're like wonderful. They're explosively full of wonder. They're constantly oohing and eyeing and let me see this. And I have a question about this. The biggest risk to wonder is being overtapped and overworked because there's not enough time. There's not enough time to pause and look. There's not enough time to ask the questions. This is why we need things like summer camp more than ever. We need to create time oases where wonder happens naturally, where young people can sit and question and ponder, because wonder leads to awe, and awe is what leads to healing. If you are doing school-based programs, the best wonder strategy that I've heard of is something called the Ask It basket. If you don't have time, because there's never enough of it, and someone has a question, often being a prior teacher, not on topic, you can say, oh, that's it. That's so interesting. Let's wonder about it later and put it in the Ask It basket. It even works for high schoolers. I've used the Ask It basket for questions about AI and technology. We're made for flow. The biggest risk against flow is digital distractions and notifications and interruptions. Flow is like focus. Scientifically, it's doing something for the sheer pleasure of it, being able to lose yourself in time, to get lost or be in the flow or in your groove. Grind is faux flow. When we're grinding and we have to do so much and we have to produce so much, we can convince ourselves that that is flow, even for kids. Complete more things to do a better job. But groove is actually slow flow. It's doing less, but a better job of it. And from a scientific perspective, flow is so powerful because it encourages young people to keep practicing. Think about a young piano player. They're going to put in the practice in order for the sheer pleasure of playing a piece without having to think about it. We need to create the conditions in which young people can find flow. And to do that, like Wyman's programming and so many of yours, they have to be able to pursue the things that interest them, that they have some inspiration or inclination to practice. And then they need the spaciousness to be able to do that. This is true for our own work too. Studies have shown that if we are in the groove, if we have found flow and focus and we get interrupted, which we do, it takes on average 23 minutes to never again to find that focus. And lastly, for the mind, kids and adults are made to create. Creativity in its simplest form is simply embracing novelty and coming up with new ideas. There are incredible creatives like Evan and my nephew, who has toured on Broadway, and for my St. Louis colleagues has been in multiple performances at the Muni this summer. In order to like breathe and live, Robert needs to be singing and dancing and performing. And then there's the rest of us. You will never find me singing or performing on a stage. I'm a lower C creative, but we're made for it. There's an activist who said that we can only unlearn creativity. You know, again, think about little kids as a reference point. Rehumaning is about reestablishing that connection to creativity, creating the conditions in which kids can experiment, tinker, build. play, tell stories, draw, doodle, perform. Obviously, creativity and play are deeply connected. And in that space, we see things like wonder and flow come about. When Robert is tapping or dancing on the stage, you better be sure that he also is playing and experiencing flow. And so creativity, like play, as kind of the most ancient of ancient capacities, has this liberating quality. And often we run out of time for those pieces. They're the things that we would love to get to, but don't always prioritize. Well, hear me now. When you prioritize and protect those essentials just like the rest, nature's win-win is that young people will not just be healthier and happier, they will also improve their learning and behavior and work. It is an incredible thing. And the even greater gift for us is that the same is true for us. There are three essentials of the heart. They are the lifeline of Wyman programming. They are why I called Allison that day and said, I want to feature the Teen Connection program, which we'll talk about at the end of our time together, because it embodies exactly the need for social health and wealth that young people have and how it can happen in whatever space and place they spend time. We, adults and kids, true for each of the essentials, were made to be social. We're a social species, just like play. We join my beloved dogs, who are certainly social, and all kinds of other animals in our need for it. The opposite of social connection is isolation or loneliness. It sets off alarms in our body, kind of like the tornado siren of overwhelm. And the reason why is that when humans were first out there living on their own in dangerous landscapes, if you wandered too far from your tribe or community, it was risking your life. And so your body would produce all of these alarm signals. And any of the Wyman team who read Vivek Murthy's book, you're going to recognize this. And those alarms, those physiological responses, chemical sirens, were saying, if you don't get back to people, you're not going to make it. Because while other animals have strength and stealth and speed, we have our capacity to be social. And so I'd like to introduce our biggest risk to that right now, which is technology. It is a synthetic substitute. It offers often frictionless connection. It's easier, it's more complementary, it's available to kids 24/7. They can sort of construct what they look like socially on social media, and then they can connect to AI companions who will really provide what it is that they crave. And so, I would give you two recommendations for connection. If you want to do programming that centers this and you're not already, look at Wyman's programming. It's the best that I know of. And also apply with the kids in your lives a bodies before bots rule. There's a big tech touch relationship right now, but they need human care and human connection. And that's connected to the next essential, which is love. We need love. We don't talk about it a lot. And interestingly, we don't research it a lot. There's not a lot of research in youth development about the transformational power of love. But there is a scholar who looks at love. Her name's Dr. Love, or that's what she's dubbed. And she married a researcher who studied loneliness. So it was Dr. Love and Dr. Loneliness. But she found that in the moment of feeling loved, we actually perform better. We learn better. We behave better. So I'm talking about the healthy, positive variety. When it comes to actual programming, and thinking about what we're equipping young people for, We want to equip them to know that they need and deserve love, but we also want to equip them to show and share love. And so when we break out the component parts to show and share love, that reciprocal piece, it's about attention and affection. I see you, I care about you. And it's about compassion and caregiving and care, right? I am connected to you emotionally and I care about what happens to you and I want to help you. So if we can't in our programming talk about love as love, then I would encourage us to break it into its component parts. How do you show and share attention and affection, compassion and care? And how do we, the adults, give ourselves permission to model that and embrace it? And we are made for belonging. Belonging is that sense of being welcome and wanted wherever you are. And as I know my colleagues at Wyman and others on the line know, the research is really budding for young people who may be in more vulnerable situations, for young people of color. They're finding that belonging is one of the most powerful, potent interventions for anything, for engagement, for behavior, for learning, for growth. And I'll tell you why. Like the best way to feel psychologically safe is if you feel psychologically welcome and wanted. Being welcome and wanted, that's the root of belonging. And you need to feel safe, that other essential regulation, in order to turn on the front of your brain, the part of your brain that is responsible for all of the executive functioning, the thinking, the critical, creative parts of thinking, the decision making, the emotional regulation, the organizing, the planning, all of those pieces. So you can see where that linkage is so critically important. Belonging happens in the small gestures, just like signals of safety. And also, importantly, in the policies and practice that we establish to make sure that any kid in any context, going through any circumstances, can walk into our home or program and say, this is a space where I am welcome and wanted. And we have three essentials of the spirit. They are our capacities to celebrate, contribute, and believe. Believing in something bigger, faith, and something better, hope. As we wrap up these final three essentials, know that they're often the ones that get shifted to the side, but they're also the ones where small micro moments have a profoundly outsized difference. The science of celebration is incredible. There was a study of homeless shelters in 2020, so during the lockdown in Massachusetts, half of them received funding to have birthday parties and half didn't. So it turns out that, kind of a leading study where I'm going, it turns out that the shelters where people had the opportunity to celebrate birthdays had individuals who went on and were much more likely to find a job, to find stable housing. Their kids were doing better in school. And when the researchers went and interviewed them, what kept coming up was that celebrating a birthday created a moment where they were no longer a client in crisis, a participant in a program, a person who was depersonalized inside of many systems. They were just a human having a human experience. And that 10-minute, 5-minute birthday party was rapid rehumaning. We also have studies that show that if I'm celebrating personally, there is a positive impact. But if I share that celebration with Allison, then actually not only do I feel better, she feels better. There's this cognitive, it's called the like link and sync effect, where I'm basically like pushing all of my good feelings straight into her brain. And you should know the reverse happens too. And then she mirrors that good news, smile, and celebration back at me. And all those endorphins and dopamine and the feel good chemicals, they just go nuts. Find an abundance of opportunities to celebrate. Again, time and overwork often keep us from that. My husband's on the call. He'll tell you that, like, I'm the first one to give up celebration because we just have a lot to do. But sometimes we actually celebrate the dangerous weather. We celebrate people doing too many things and being so busy. They were AP classes, and they were sports, and they were piano, and they were theater, and all the things. Or we celebrate that they accomplished an incredibly impossible list of things to do. So let's find just millions of ways to share in celebration, organically or not. Contribution is the next one. And simply put, it's just giving kids jobs. It's giving responsibilities. We want to have a job. When I talk to summer camps, I'm sure this is true for Wyman summer programming. And I ask them, like, how is your culture so vibrant and positive? They're like, well, kids have a responsibility to themselves as campers, to their cabin, to the campus overall. And so that is just kind of a radical, wonderful thing to know. Researchers have shown that our teenagers who sometimes seem like they're not interested in contributing. I say this as the mom of two who's like, could you please do the dishes? Can you please take out the trash? That actually they need a sense of contribution even more because it's so tied to belonging and connection. If I have responsibility here, if I have a job here, it means I'm a part of this place or a part of this family or a part of this community. And it can be the great like social change option. We have East Side Aligned on the line, and thinking about their work and knowing it intimately, the kind of youth activism and youth leadership, that's contribution. But so is just holding the door. So is just carrying the groceries. And the final essential is belief. It is this sense of what is bigger or better in the world. It is understanding that regardless of religion, we are wired for a natural inborn spirituality. And that spirituality asks us, is there something bigger that I am a part of? Is there something better I can aspire to? Unlike optimism, which could actually sort of allow us to settle into circumstances, faith and hope propel us to focus on the future. And that is a powerful, productive thing. And so across these essentials, we see that this is what it means to be human. And that rehumaning is the constant small ability to make the tweaks and adjustments that simply protect and promote those things. If you're able to see the image, you can see a picture of my son Harrison and I playing cards. And I have this here for an important reason. Simply by playing cards on our living room floor, we light up multiple essentials. I'm teaching him a card game here. And so at once, it's regulating because it's safe at home. It's playful. There's wonder in the learning. There's flow in the experience. There's creativity in the strategy. There's so much connection and love and belonging in the laughter and healthy competition. There's a sense of contribution of him teaching me ways that he actually found he could win that card game just by playing cards, by creating a little bit of space. We're naturally inclined to move toward these essentials. And so as we think about what comes next, what I would offer to you is that it's not that we don't know these are important already. We do. It is about remembering that that normal is not natural and that it takes extra effort, action, and intention to protect and prioritize them, and to actually equip young people to understand that this can be a practice where they are radically protecting on their own their sleep. They're plugging in their own devices before bed. They are saying yes to a friend who wants to play. They are holding that door. They are giving that hug and attention and affection. They are being whole humans in a time when it is hard to human. And so before I pass it back to Allison, I'm going to ask us to go back to the poll, to give ourselves permission for ourselves and our young people who we might be raising, working with, or both, to set some priorities. So if you stepped away from the visual, I want you to come back and get that QR code. Again, there's a picture of it, or pull your phone back up if you still have it available. And Tori, if you can throw from earlier the access code, if anybody needs to get it, I'm going to change my screen here. And let's see. Oh, I think I stopped sharing totally. Hold on. So this next set of questions that we're going to try to do very rapidly is sliders with your fingers or with your mouse. When you think about the body essentials, I just want you to choose one or two that you, for your young people or for yourself, need to and want to prioritize. So this is for you. You do it however you would like. As you think about the next few weeks to few months, what do you want to be better prioritizing or protecting? Slide over. Is it the eating? Is it the sleep? Is it movement? Is it creating that sense of safety? And while you do that, I'm going to reach and get a plug so that I don't disconnect from this connected conversation. All right, so I'm looking up here. And again, if you're not able to get back on, I'm going to just ask you to think about what you want, if it's the eating, the sleep, the movement, or the regulation. And again, we're going to do this kind of rapidly so that we can get to the end of our time together and pass back to Allison. So I'm going to move us over now to the mind essentials. When you think about things like play, wonder, flow, and creativity, what do you want to just focus on? What do you need to better protect and prioritize over these next few weeks or a few months? All right, so it's interesting. We see lots of wonder and play. So be thinking, if you're not on right now, be thinking about what you want to prioritize: play, wonder, flow, creativity. We're moving quickly, so have those sliders ready, your mouse or your finger. What about for the heart? What do you just need to better protect, better promote, better prioritize? Is it just bodies before bots, like just general connection? Is it showing that attention, affection, compassion, and care and sharing it and receiving it? Is it building spaces of belonging? What's the priority? All right, so we see a lot. This will be great, Allison, as we talk about Teen Connection Project a lot on the connection side. And the final question for you before I go to a final voice in my life before passing to Allison is, what spirit essential do you want to better protect and prioritize? And I want to make sure. Allison, I moved this. Are you
We're
Are you
not
still
seeing
seeing
people's,
it on my screen?
we see it on your
Which
screen, but
spirit
not people's
essential?
responses yet. Oh,
Okay,
there it
I'm
goes,
seeing
Stephanie.
responses. Let me try to share it one more time. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
we can see
Perfect.
it now, Stephanie. Now, Stephanie, we're seeing the responses, but
Wonderful.
yeah, but your video is frozen, but we can still hear you.
So I'm going
Oh, there, you're back.
to, okay. Hopefully I'll come back.
Yeah, you're back.
All right. So I'm going to move us back over to just a last. Great. Let's see if I can get to the end, all the way across the ocean. So I want to end my presentation not with my voice, but the voice of a kid I care for, my own. So in the book, How We Thrive, my son Harrison, he wrote the foreword. And I just want to make sure, Allison, are you able to hear me or am I clippy and cut off?
Yes, we can hear you now and see your slide.
Wonderful. So Harrison, who we call Koa, it's his Hawaiian name. He wrote the foreword to the book because I wanted a book about thriving and collective care to start with the voice of a kid that I care for. I just want to read you this line from the foreword. Put yourself in a kid's position. So this is Koa talking. Imagine being physically and emotionally stressed and overwhelmed, and someone comes over to you and starts talking about how easy you have it being young and how it will get harder as you grow up. Who wants to live like that, knowing it will get worse? I know I don't. I don't want to just live my life. I want to enjoy it. And so before turning back to Allison, I just want to take a moment as a mom. My kids are in the schedules and systems that I put them in, that we put them in. They're in the conditions of those spaces and settings, of those relationships. And our kids are already blowing the siren and alarm that this is not the way they are meant to and made to live and learn and work. And so I will tell you, overwhelm is not inevitable. It does not need to be the whole of the life of my 13-year-old son. There's a different way to do this. It's rehumaning. Rehumaning for us is protecting and providing the conditions these kids crave and that we crave ourselves. And rehumaning is the practice and process that they get to take on now and across their lifetime of not being pushed and pulled by wild weather, being able to tap into the incredible superpower capacities they already have. And so I want to give it back to Allison because it doesn't take radical, fundamental change to get us there. And the Teen Connection Project is a perfect example of just what I mean. So, Allison, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie. We'll do a little reflection after we, talk a little bit more about Teen Connection Project. But I just want to share at this point, I've read Stephanie's book, I've talked with her, I read her Substack, I follow these things. But my experience, just even going through all of that, we often talk about the things at Wyman they're not therapy, but they're therapeutic. And just that regrounding in that entire arc of everything you just talked about, Stephanie, we have the capacity to change the conditions for ourselves and young people. There's a lot of things we can't control in the world, but boy, there are a lot of things that we can influence and we can control. And you just gave us a masterclass and a reminder of those. So as we think then and just think about how literally this can apply and show up through intentionality, through our ability to change conditions. Many of you who know us, who follow us on social media, have seen a lot that we have done in talking about Teen Connection Project. So let me just give a little cue in to what that is about in case you aren't familiar with it. But one of Wyman's two evidence-based programs, Teen Connection Project, we, over the course of a typical semester, you guide a small group of high school age youth through a series of 12 lessons or experiences. These lessons and experiences are designed to gradually build deeper connections explore common aspects of humaning and the human condition. Together, young people build trust. They explore conflict and communication. They practice being vulnerable with their peers. They understand and explore that everyone faces challenges. They're not alone. They explore receiving positive recognition and gratitude and speaking to gratitude and receiving gratitude themselves. And by the end of that program, they have the ability to see and lift up one another's strengths. We were fortunate to co-develop Teen Connection Project with Dr. Joe Allen from the University of Virginia, and we tested it here in St. Louis at 3 local high schools. 4 months after the program's completion, teens in Teen Connection Project had stronger peer relationships, a stronger sense of connection to their schools, lower rates of depressive symptoms, and a higher use of social coping strategies. So you can imagine, with these realities that we're seeing now, with these observations that we have, lifting up Teen Connection Project and bringing it to more and more young people in St. Louis and across the country has become a huge priority for us. We know there is no one magic panacea that solves everything for young people. But boy, we know that something like Teen Connection Project, where young people are deeply involved, highly engaged, and by the way, they tell us how much they love this experience. This is something we can control and we can do. So we're going to hear from young people in that program in just a moment. But before we do that, I want just to turn it back to Stephanie. You included Teen Connection Project as kind of the lead in chapter 11 of your book on connection, on all things related to heart. Can you just give a little commentary on that, Stephanie?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the book, How We Thrive, which a lot of the content from today came from, the chapter in Connection indeed opens with the Teen Connection Project. Allison, if you can see it, she's holding up the book. So for the book, I interviewed over 100 scientists and scholars and field leaders, but tried to open each chapter with the very best example of what this looks like in real life, rehumaning in real life. And the thing that I love so much about Teen Connection Project, and I'll keep it very brief so we can hear from these young people, it's a great video, is that it didn't require waiting to change how school is organized. That Teen Connection Project was operating inside of schools, which were inadvertently, but chronically constantly, restricting kids of some of the very essentials that we talked about today. And Wyman was able to take a classroom inside of that setting and create a completely new context, an oasis. And so when I think about Teen Connection Project, from a conditions perspective, I think about it as a rehumaning oasis that we create within the desert, within the sort of wild weather, the storm, the safe haven where all of those essentials can be there really vibrantly. And what we know from the science on sort of recovery or anything else is the moment young people slide into that environment, it's like their body recognizes it and they're like, I see that this is different and it feels good for me. And so, the scope and sequence of the program itself builds connection and trust and relationship over time, as you'll hear. But ultimately, the consensus from these kids as I was doing the research on the program is I feel like I can be the whole of who I am. And I'm more alive and awake in the world. I'm thriving in the context of this place. And then eventually, what happens in the program in place begins to permeate out into the other spaces and settings where they spend time. So there's this kind of expansion ripple effect of the thriving that then lives on longer and farther than the classroom.
Thanks, Stephanie, for that. And, to that point, as you listen to young people, I don't think I said this in my introduction, but the biggest impact of the program, we measured it 4 months after the program was completed. So exactly what Stephanie just talked about, when we do these kinds of things with young people, it's sticky. It holds. They can use these skills. So you've heard enough from us. Let's hear from our young people themselves.
In TCPU, I actually talk to them, and do activities with them.
I feel like I've opened up more.
I don't know how to describe it, but it was very fun.
Hi, my name is Makisha.
Hi, I'm Michaela.
Hello, my name is Lyric. My name is Jordan Jones.
Hello, my name is London.
And my name's Casey.
My name is Caleb.
My name is DeAnton.
And I'm Jordan, and welcome to TCP Mini Mic.
What was the best part for you in participating in TCP?
Getting to know everyone and actually knowing their personalities.
Being able to express myself and open up more without judgment from my peers.
Establishing trust. The whole walk and having somebody guide you to the end was very fun.
It's like I knew them, but I never talked to them often. And also being able to share. In TCP, I feel like I've opened up more. So just having that nice safe space was probably the best part for me.
I'll say making connections with people that I see on a daily basis. It's like going from stranger to acquaintance to an actual friend.
Okay, what is your favorite way to connect with your friends or family?
Going out to eat.
Nights when we have a big family dinner.
Or going out to eat.
Going out with them to a dinner.
At my house we have a PS5 and we like to play games together. We play a lot of board games, we yell at each other a lot. We play card games and stuff.
As far as my friends, playing the game, whether it's a game we're yelling at each other or we're working together, it's always a great time.
I can bond with anybody based off of music because I listen to a lot of genres.
One thing I learned from TCP is communication, talking with them, expressing myself.
Why is having a connection with someone important?
The more people you know, the more network and trust you can build around people.
You learn not only from your own experiences, but the people around you. Being lonely, I feel hurts you more than being hurt.
Having someone to talk to, getting stuff off your chest, they'll understand what you're going through and they can offer supportive advice that doesn't feel too overbearing.
That's all you could ever ask for.
I'm in heaven. And never forget,
you matter.
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 You matter. Yes, you boo.
Keep that video on my desktop. So for those days that are, and y'all have those, right? That are really, really hard. It's just such an amazing reminder. You heard young people saying you matter. So that's one of our closing pieces to you all. One of the reasons we do these connected conversations is because each of you matters in the work that we are doing. And when I think about all that you have brought to us today, Stephanie, in the space of rehumaning, that is what we are trying to help young people and ourselves, right, rediscover. It's actually one of the lessons in the TCP curriculum. It's called #YouMatter. So, we share that. We really wanted to lift up today and share Stephanie's kind of this idea of how we thrive, these reminders to everyone. And we share Teen Connection Project as one actionable step that people can take, that people can do. So you can learn more about that in the follow-up email that we will send out. If you want to talk with us more about that, we are more than happy to do that. But let me kind of bring us full circle today. We have a few calls to action for you all. And if we can bring up that slide. Thank you, Nate. Want you to, and Stephanie already helped us think about this first one, right? For yourself. We know and we believe at Wyman that our relationships and connections are our superpower. We can't support our young people, just like, in the airplane, put on your oxygen mask first, unless we are doing that ourselves. So Stephanie already helped us in that Mentimeter to think about what do you need? Where do you need to be fed? Where are the pieces and the things that you can prioritize for yourself? And some of these are not rocket science. Some of these can be meaningful changes we can make today that make a difference for you in your care for young people. Second, what are the places, as you thought about, as you listened to everything that Stephanie was bringing to us today, that you can actually prioritize for the young people that you serve in the places and spaces where you have the ability to make impact, in the policies that you are lifting up in different ways, in the things that you're funding, in the things that you are asking about? What are the strengths that you are seeing, and what are the opportunities to go deeper? Third, one of our calls to actions is for everyone on this call to get involved in deeper ways. You'll see a couple pieces coming through in the chat. Both Stephanie and Wyman and some others on the call. I think Ellie Farrell is on the call with us from the Children's Funding Project and Fund IRL. Check out Fund IRL. They are doing amazing work in bringing together youth providers across the country to say, hey, we know that things are going to be happening in the future around likely social media settlements. When we look at big tech, there have been huge settlements in the space of big tobacco, huge settlements in the space of opioids. The same kind of piece is probably going to come through when we think about big tech and its impact on young people. How can we come together? How can we share our stories? And how can we be well positioned to say, okay, when that comes through, here's the kinds of things that should be invested for the good of young people. So check out Fund IRL, get involved, follow them, come to their webinars. It's one of the things that you can do right now. We also have, if you're in the St. Louis region, we will be doing again on September 10th. Stephanie is a grad from the Brown School, School of Social Work in Washington University. She's going to be doing an IRL if you want to experience this in real life, book talk. I'm going to be there again. One of my former Wyman colleagues from way back in the day, Dan King, is going to be there as well. And so we'll go further into all of this and talk more deeply. Share this. You will receive this at the end. Share this with others who you think can really benefit from this. And lastly, we really lift up, choose intentionally. Again, there are things in this world that we cannot control, but there is a lot that we can control. There are a lot of choices that we can make for ourselves, for the young people that we care about, to really align back to these essentials, to align in how we can get ourselves and our young people in a space that is thriving. So please choose intentionally as you think about these things. Oh, there are so many pieces being dropped in the chat. Again, we will bring these back to you all in a follow-up email. You'll have ways to get in touch with Stephanie in there if you want to talk further with her, if you want to purchase the book. At Wyman, we have given it to all of our staff. We have given it to all of our trustees. We have shared it with many of those who support us, many of our partners, because we believe so deeply in these types of reminders and how we can really support ourselves and the young people that we care about. So one last request for you all in the chat. Wyman this is our second connected conversation for the year. We are looking to do a third. We will begin to do these again in 2027, but we want to do things that feed you, that you see, that you would like to prioritize. So if you have some ideas, please feel free to drop those in the chat. Please feel free to get connected with us as follow-ups. You will be seeing more from us in the future in our next connected conversations. And I just want to give a huge shout out in space of gratitude to my friend Stephanie Malia Kraus for today, for the labor of love that it has been to bring all of this together and to bring it together in a way that is accessible and useful, and naming and claiming the current realities and storms, but more importantly, not dwelling in there, right? Helping us also see those pieces that we can control, that we can impact, that we can do for ourselves and our young people as we move forward. So deep gratitude to you, Stephanie, for being with us today.
Thank you, Allison. And to everybody who's online, I just want to bring us back to something I said, because as a person, parent, and professional in this space, it's what I continue to tell myself. The overwhelm is not inevitable. It's an alarm. It's an alarm that's saying we're depleted of and deprived of the very things that are free for us, that are these capacities we already have, these human superpowers that will help us be healthy and happy and learn and work, that will help us thrive. And our normal isn't natural. So rehumaning is just that practice. And like Wyman's program, it doesn't take big change. It's simple shifts and interactions. And so you can start small and you can just, little mini moves can make such a profound difference. As you said, Allison, and you're right, There's so much in the world that we can't control and change, but there's so much that we can. And this cuts across every kid, every condition, every context, every one of their grown-ups.
No better way to leave it, Stephanie. Thanks to everyone for your comments in the chat. We're ending right on time. Go practice one of these things right now at 10:30 before you dive back into the rest of your day. Go walk, go wander a little bit, go play for a few minutes, and you'll hear from us in a follow-up. Stephanie, have a wonderful rest of your time in Hawaii.